Well, hello and welcome to the Texas Special YouTube channel. We are looking at the June 2025 HO scale locomotive review. And what we have before us is an old Athearn blue box GP38. As you can see, it is lettered for Kansas City Southern's Gray Ghost scheme. And just looking at this engine right off the bat, yes, it's a little dirty, but the real ones are in real life too. You can see that it has the appropriate contrasting zebra stripes, which look like they were applied by the original owner. This was a second-hand acquisition picked up at the Pasadena train show. The trucks are missing some small details, nothing too distracting though. There we go, a little bit more light on it. You can see a little better. The lettering and decaling and numbering on this thing is actually pretty good. The paint separation between the gray and black and yellow is fairly well done. And the trucks are what you would expect from an older Athearn blue box locomotive. I'll see if my camera will cooperate. We can zoom in a little bit. Well, it looks like that's the best it's going to be. You can see that most of the important details are there. The little swing arm thing, I'm not sure what it's called, that goes around underneath the leaf springs there, that's missing, and it is on most all these trucks. The shell is loose. This engine has been remotored with a gigantic motor. It's not the original Athearn motor. So it has some extra weight to it because of the larger motor, and it pulls like nobody's business. The walkways along the sides of the locomotive are smooth. There is no safety tread modeled. There's no texturing to simulate safety tread. And you have a cast-on grill detail here, as well as here along the dynamic brake blister, and here the air intake is cast on as well. And you can see that there's, even though it's cast on, which they are on pretty much all HO diesel engines, the hood doors, the various doors along the long hood are modeled, as well as the appropriate latching mechanisms and door hinges. Not quite up to today's standards, but then again, this is at least a probably 35-year-old locomotive. You notice on the pilots, both the rear and the front pilot, the edge of the steps is painted in the appropriate FRA mandated contrasted paint so that they're a little bit more visible. And just like on the real GP 38s, it does have the correct EMD shelf style steps on both the front and rear pilots. This particular engine, it has been equipped with DCC. When I purchased it, it was originally equipped with DCC, original to me. But it's not a sound decoder, as you guys will hear momentarily. Added to that, the lights don't work, and the the window glazing is missing, but not a big thing. You do have supposed to be a 3-chime horn. The rear chime back here that points backwards is broken off, but my son doesn't mind. That's the whole reason I bought this engine, was he likes KCS. He saw this at the show. He really wanted it, so being the good father that I am, even though it's KCS, I went ahead and got it for him. Looking at the business end of this locomotive, you can see the contrasting yellow and gray stripes here on the nose of the short hood. You also have some cast on marker lights or classification lights, whatever you want to call them, in the top left and right hand corner of the short hood. You can see that the number boards are intact and do have the correct, well, not necessarily correct, but matching number 4798, corresponding with what's on the battery box here alongside of the cab. Of course, the Katy magnetic operating knuckle coupler. You can see the spots for modeler applied MU hoses, and you may or may not be able to see it all that well, but there is actually separately applied grab irons here, here, along the top of the nose right here, and along the side right here. As with all older Athearn blue box locomotives and most HO scale diesel locomotives on the market, the hood unit variety, the doors on the cab, both the front door on the conductor side of the locomotive and on the rear, on the engineer's side, are molded onto the body. They do not open and close, but they are there, as well as the appropriate door handle and hinge mechanisms. Looking at the rear of the locomotive, again, you see a bare bones pilot. You have the little spots for the MU hoses. You have the Katy coupler, which has a trimmed uncoupling pin because it was catching on my road crossing by Clayton County Lumber. You have the little notches up here for the what could potentially be classification lights, depending on which customer is ordering the locomotive in the real world, prototypically speaking, and what they are requesting. You have these marker lights here that are molded onto the body below the matching number boards. You also have these separately applied grab irons here running the height of the rear of the long hood. And I'm not sure how well you can see it, but there is actually a separately applied grab iron, a separately applied curved grab iron here on the rear of the engine. I don't know for sure if that is OEM from the factory or if that is a modeler applied detail. And of course the zebra striping, the black and yellow striping here on the handrails on the rear pilot. Looking along the top of the locomotive, you can see that curved grab iron I was talking about just a little bit better. All the grills along the top of the locomotive with respect to the dynamic brake cooling grid and the locomotive cooling fans themselves, they're cast on. They are not see-through. You do have a fair amount of rivet detailing, and I don't see any cast on lift rings of any variety on the roof of the engine, and of course you have a shot of the broken third chime there on the air horn. Something you can see a little better possibly that I know for sure you couldn't earlier is the sand filling nozzle here and the sand filling nozzle on the nose of the locomotive. The engine features 8-wheel electrical pickup, and all 4 axles on this locomotive are powered. There are no idler axles, so all 8 wheels on this engine are both picking up power and converting that power to tractive effort. If you've been watching this channel for the last year or two, then you know that this guy makes occasional appearances in both fun runs and ops videos. When I use it in ops videos, it's mostly as like run through power on either the inbound or outbound, either rock train or the manifest freight. That being said, this would be a good switch engine to run the local, since I have elected for 1985 to 1995 for this railroad. But given that this is a Southern Pacific themed railroad, I don't really use this engine for switching, at least not in ops videos. I have done it a few times off camera, just messing around here in the garage, but as I mentioned earlier, this guy will pull. He will try to pull the house off the foundation. The standard train, standard manifest freight for a typical op session is 12 to 15 cars. I have a 20 car train, not including caboose, sitting here on the main line ready to go. So we're going to couple this guy up and run it around the railroad so y'all can see just how it does. Now, I know 20 cars is not a gargantuan train by any standards, but keep in mind we're talking 18-inch radius all the way throughout on a dog bone style railroad that was intentionally built to be uneven, so there is a natural downhill and uphill on this railroad.